All right, everyone, a whole bunch of countries, dozens of them actually, are prepared to downgrade or sever their diplomatic ties with Venezuela over what's happening there. And it's like, here, Venezuela is a failed state at this point. They've pretty much collapsed. Maduro has no legitimacy. Like, he's being propped up by loan forgiveness from Europe and basically China at this point. Is potentially not long for the world. But here's the thing. The way to handle the situation is not to put more pressure on ultimately his opponents by looking like you're backing some sort of coup staging bullshit. Actually stage one. How about that? Wouldn't that be a better idea? Like, diplomatically speaking, when pressure is put on Maduro, all that happens is the 10-20% of the population that's really hard line and really loves him sort of forms human shield around him, diplomatically speaking. It would be better if you just took some disgruntled former army captains or something, give them an airdrop and let them take care of the situation. But I don't think he really cares, because a lot of these countries have already condemned or downgraded their relations anyway. We're talking the Lima Group, some of these others, the United States, certainly certain European states. Now it's basically the EU as a whole. But the EU is corrupt too. It's like, who cares what they think? This type of globalist diplomacy has never worked well. Look back at maybe the World War I and interwar period. Global diplomacy was a farce and in fact can cause struggles more often than it solves them. Then you look ahead to more recent times, Darfur or Rwanda or something. When does the global community actually get off its ass and help? No, when you have an actual invasion, it's a false liberation like Iraq or like Afghanistan. Every other time when you have the opportunity to actually kill off some despotic tin horn that's destroying their own country and their own people, the global community does nothing. So they'll say, well, we're going to put financial pressure on them. What financial pressure? They're in hyperinflation. They've got chronic shortages of virtually every basic and significant good you could possibly think of. They're the most oil-rich state. They got a fuel shortage. How much more miserable do you think it can make them? And what by the way, saying, well, we're not going to have diplomatic relations with you. Okay, well, then you don't have a seat at the table as far as their behavior goes. Maduro has already got a penchant for telling you to fuck yourself. He even told his own legislature, his own courts, and his own people to fuck himself. Yes, Maduro, who is, by the way, a real socialist. This is real socialism. Salon used to say that 5 or 6 years ago before their economy collapsed. Now they're not so honest. This is the fruits of real socialism, which requires heavy centralization. That's ultimately the root of all evil within socialism. Leftist economics fail specifically because they require a high degree of centrality. And if you were to have some anarcho-syndicalism or something, I don't know, you could probably make some hybrid system in the, basically Bitcoin fueled far leftist anarchism or something. It'd be a very funny economy and society to see, but that's not what we have with Venezuela. Oddly enough, they're heavily centrally controlled crypto. It's basically going to be worthless too. Probably nobody's going to give a fuck because it's not like the Ancapistan sort of stuff that goes on with many other types of crypto and many exchanges. It's basically, hey, the state is issuing these. They have a value. We're setting the value. We'll manipulate it at a whim. We'll decide how many coins there are and what they're worth at any given time. Fuck you. The petro, that is. And I think that they're trying to develop a better method because it's sort of fallen flat, the idea as a whole. I think Venezuelans now can actually participate there. Basically, you're buying a piece of Venezuela when you're doing that with no guarantee it doesn't get nationalized. See, that's the problem. Venezuela is not also going to get any income from abroad. Who's going to invest there? When they can say, well, the factory's not producing enough because of a shortage, like with the Coca-Cola factory, they nationalized it because they had a sugar shortage. They couldn't make Coca-Cola. They're like, yeah, we're only working 3 days a week because that's all our supplies will actually support. And in electricity, that's a shortage too. I feel sorry. Very sorry for the people of Venezuela. Just like I feel sorry for people in every godforsaken dystopian hellhole socialist state that springs up throughout time and inevitably collapses. Feel sorry for them all. I love it when people point to Scandinavia and it's like, oh yeah, a few decades of socialism after diversification and hefty privatization and a massive, massive degree of industrial muscle based on a fuel economy. That's the real socialism now. Just wait, give it 10 years and see what happens, and then it'll no longer be real socialism anymore. Yeah, you've got a very, very free market in some senses. Look, the United States, oddly enough, had the highest technical corporate tax rate until the Trump admin for like the last 3 administrations. Yeah, I wonder why we had some growth problems and stuff. Low consumer confidence. I wonder why these bubbles keep bubbling up and bursting. Could it be because of constant fucking micromanaging manipulation of the economy? Yeah, probably. Probably because we have the Fed controlling what our money's worth and everything else. It's just ludicrous the way that we do things. Money should be seen as just a medium of exchange. Well, and who fucking cares? Here's the thing. Socialism is ruining Venezuela. And it's very funny as well to see other states that in some cases are also socialist and like backwards and have corrupt governments calling them out on it. Including parts of Europe at this point, like Western Europe. Heavily intervened in, globalistic, abusive towards its own people. Maduro, if he wanted to do something useful for a change for the first fucking time in his godforsaken life, he should come and say, oh, why are the Europeans going to cut diplomatic ties? They heavily censor their own people and put them in prison because they complained on Twitter. My people are free to complain about me on Twitter. Yeah, they're just not they're not permitted completely though, because the Red Guard might show up. But I don't immediately kick down their door. I might wait a week. See, I'm a good dictator. That's about all. Peace out.